Hi, this is Justin Cantor, aka Retro Rhythms. I thought for a change of pace that I would talk about 5 albums which I've enjoyed greatly over the years that I feel could have been much more successful than they already were had they been afforded better promotion. This is a combination of well-known artists and maybe some not as well-known, but I think a lot of my audience will be familiar with most of these performers. So I'm going in alphabetical order. The first artist that I wanted to talk about is Stacey Earl. There's another Stacey Earl who's a country singer. This is the dance pop recording artist. She had several top 40 hits in 1992, Love Me All Up and Romeo and Juliet, featuring the Wild Pair. And it's interesting, I'm not sure, Stacy herself might be able to answer this, but I think from what I've gathered that Can't Go On This Way, an album track, might have originally been planned as the first single release because a video for that surfaced many years later here on YouTube. But it's worth noting that Love Me All Up, which was in fact the first single, did not have a video, and of course by 1991, 1992, I mean, it was a given that you needed a video to have a big hit. But she managed to climb all the way up to number 27, or 26 actually, on the Billboard Pop chart with Love Me All Up without any video support, and from what I could tell, because I followed music even as a youngster at that time, no real visible promotion in terms of TV appearances. I don't know if much was done in terms of radio promotion. By the time her second single came along with Romeo and Juliet, there was a video made, and the song just missed the peak of Love Me All Up. That one was number 27. And then the follow-up, which is a beautiful ballad called Slowly, unfortunately missed the top 40 by about 12 notches. That didn't have a video either. I do remember seeing a printout in Billboard, but you know, there's lots of things that go on in the business, and I studied it to some degree in college, but you know, it's just strange to me. Great vocalist, very stylish, very good-looking, good dancer as well. And you know, I don't know why RCA didn't seem to push more. I'm not sure what was going on with different departments. But let me just show you. This is the single of Love Me All Up, the 12-inch. Okay, great song, by the way. And the follow-up with Romeo and Juliet. And then, I don't know if you can see this because it's small, but Slowly, which was the final single from the album. And lots of great other tracks on there. Okay, so next I want to go to Mr. Glenn Medeiros, who was, I would say, my first big male vocal influence when I was studying voice. Now, he started, this is the album that I'm going to talk about from 1990. It's a self-titled album. But he had his first success as a teenager with a cover of George Benson's Nothing's Gonna Change My Love for You, which just missed the top 10 on the pop charts. His second album, Not Me, which had contributions from the likes of Bobby Caldwell and Robbie Buchanan, didn't make as much of a big impression on the pop charts, but has gone on to be much revered by AOR fans. But anyways, Amherst Records, which was his label, struck up a deal with MCA during that second album called Not Me, and this is just an alternate cover. So by the time that his third album, self-titled Glenn Medeiros, not to be confused with the first 87 album, which was self-titled, MCA was kind of handling the promotion and a lot of the affairs. Now, what they did was they teamed him up with Bobby Brown on what became a #1 pop hit, She Ain't Worth It. And that had a video that was aired a lot on MTV as well as BET. And that one also reached close to the top 40 of the R&B charts, but it was a #1 pop hit. And the follow-up single was billed as featuring Ray Parker Jr. Mostly he, produced the number. He has a little dialogue on it, but he's not really doing a vocal step out. But it's All I'm Missing Is You, which also had a video. And there's an alternate, let's see, show you. These are alternate covers for, this is the US cover of She Ain't Worth It. And then All I'm Missing Is You, I think this one was from France. But all this to say, All I'm Missing Is You didn't quite replicate the success. It got to number 32. And then the follow-up to that was Me Minus You Equals Blue, featuring the Stylistics. And there was not a video for that one. Now, I don't know if he was handled primarily by the pop department or the R&B department. Here's another cover of Me Minus You Equals Blue. But though he did have the video support with All I'm Missing Is You, and it seems like they probably told him to lose a lot of weight, because you can see a big difference in his image from She Ain't Worth It to All I'm Missing Is You. I don't think that there was but so much support promotionally, because I don't recall seeing him on shows of the day, and I haven't seen things surface from that time period, certainly from the United States, other than maybe one telethon here or there. So I think that the fact that Bobby Brown was featured on that track really encouraged them to push it, but they weren't really behind him as a long-term artist. There was a final promotional single from the album, another very moving ballad called Doesn't Matter Anymore, but that didn't make it to the commercial stage. And the last thing he did for MCA the following year was the title song from the movie If Looks Could Kill, featuring Richard Grieco. I'm not good with actors' names, but I think that's right. And anyway, I just thought there were missed opportunities as far as further success from that album. There were some really great pop R&B hybrids like The Best Man and Just Like Rain, things both on the up-tempo and mid-tempo front. Even another collaboration with Bobby Brown, Lovely Little Lady, which is more of filler, I guess, but still, it wasn't bad, and I think that, the fact that his next album, Glenn's next album, It's Alright to Love, it was only released in Europe, and that had a lot of great pop tunes, but I don't know what happened, but hence why I'm including it in this selection of albums that I feel were missed opportunities to a big degree on the part of the record companies. Now, next I want to get to someone who's very well loved by many, Mr. Billy Ocean. This is his Time to Move On album from 1993 that I'm going to talk about. This would be his last album for many years. He wouldn't do another one for 16 years after this. Now, this came after a long hiatus. He started in the 70s. He was very successful in the UK, where he grew up largely, for a long time before he really broke out in the U.S. His first big breakout in the U.S. was with Nights, Feel Like Getting Down in 1981. That was a top 10 R&B hit. But of course, when he signed with Jive Records, he had a string of top 10 hits on the pop and R&B charts, double platinum albums, classics like Caribbean Queen, No More Love on the Run, Suddenly, Get Out of My Dreams, Get Into My Car, When the Going Gets Tough, The Tough Get Going, The Color of Love, Love Zone, Loverboy, There'll Be Sad Songs to Make You Cry, Love Is Forever, a lot. So, of course, the fact that he went 4 years without an album, a lot of things changed in the music industry and at his label, as he mentioned to me in an interview I did with him. So that had a lot to do with it, but the thing is about this one that really just befuddles me is that in the U.S., this was the only single that was released, Everything's So Different Without You, which was he wrote it with R. Kelly, and I know that R. Kelly is part of cancel culture now, but it's a timeless tune no matter what. And there was another really awesome song that they teamed up together with on that album called Rose. And the thing is, the album had a lot of cool production by the likes of Hula and K Fingers and Sly and Dunbar. There's one tune, Everyday Sunshine, in particular that stands out to me. But there was no video done for this. He appeared on Regis and Kathy Lee. But in the UK, the single that came out first, I believe, was Pressure. There was one other one. It might have been the first one, I'm not sure. But let's pick up the pieces, put it back. And anyway, I don't get how an artist, after that much success for so long, that the company, I mean, I know he was in his early 40s by then, so I'm sure that had something to do with it, but, to not even fund a video for this artist who sold millions of records, worldwide over the preceding decade, and to not do a video and really just do one single, I mean, it really was strange to me. And so that single ended up peaking at number 91 on the R&B chart in the summer of '93, and that was it. I'm not sure of the stats in the UK, but it didn't fare all that much better. So, but anyway, he's been back on a great track the last 15 years or so. He's been touring again. He's released several albums since 2009, and he has another one on the way, which I actually wrote a review of called One World, but it's been delayed because of the COVID-19 crisis. So that's supposed to be out in September as of now. Next up, Brenda K. Starr. So she started on the Mirage label in 1985. She was in the movie Beat Street as well. And Picking Up Pieces was a dance hit, considered a freestyle classic. After one album called I Want Your Love, Mirage Records folded. Now it's interesting because before this album came out, originally in late '86, and they misspelled it, they put K-A-Y instead of K period, was this 12-inch release of the single What You See Is What You Get. And this was actually a number 6 dance hit in early '87. But it was almost towards the end of '87 that her next record with MCA came out, so maybe that was trouble from the start, I don't know. But Breakfast in Bed, also Desayuno de Amor, which is the Spanish version. And there's a video for that, which is really cool, and here's the 45 from that. Anyway, but the big hit, of course, which is her classic, which even Mariah Carey, who sang backup for her shortly after this time, later covered, didn't do nearly as good at it as Brenda did, is I Still Believe. Also, it was recorded by Amy Stewart around the same time, but not released in the U.S. But, wonderful ballad. It just missed the top 10. And she did have a video for this. And I kind of felt like, I'm not sure, like the album cover shot might have been from that video, because it looks like part of it to me. This is the back of the album, by the way. But anyway, what happened next was that they decided, MCA that is, to re-release What You See Is What You Get to the pop market. And that managed to reach number 24 in '88 without any video. And so I know there's budgets and things, but it's like if you have an artist that's pretty much getting to the top 10 and, played a lot on R&B and pop, to just suddenly not fund a video when it's going that high, I just don't get it, And there was one final single from the album, a cool R&B tune called Straight From the Heart. But, after that, she ended up going over to, I think originally WTG, which was a kind of a short-lived subsidiary of CBS and then Sony, but ultimately she released her By Heart album on Epic nearly 4 years later in late '91, and they dropped her the week after she released that album after numerous delays. And again, no video support for the one single from that album. I will say there was this one other tune from the Brenda K. Starr album, You Should Be Loving Me, that was on a 12-inch featured in the movie Daddy's Little Girl. I don't think promoted to radio, though. I think just to clubs. But so this kind of theme that I get at, and I think it's fitting for you too, is that interesting how many of these successful artists did not have consistent video support, even in the MTV era, when that was a necessity, in a lot of ways, or certainly could make the difference between a song making the top 10 and not. So finally, I want to get to, this is probably out of the 5 that I'm covering, the most, I would say, straightforward soul artist, so to speak, and that's Ruby Turner. This is her album, The Other Side, from 1991, and I did have the pleasure of serving as a compilation producer and liner notes writer for an anthology of her Jive Records years not too long ago. It's called Living a Life of Love, and it's a 2 CD set available on Soul Music Records. Of course, I highly recommend it. It has 32 tracks. Now, she had been on the scene for many years, but I'll make a long story short and say that her big crossover to the U.S. market was in 1990 with the tune It's Gonna Be Alright, which became a #1 R&B hit for her, and was shortly thereafter followed by 2 successful singles, Paradise featuring Ecstasy of Houdini, which just missed the top 20 of the R&B, and these songs had videos. But then It's a Crying Shame, which didn't have a video, but made the top 30, and I know is a personal favorite of Ruby's. Now, so it was only a little bit over a year later that this album, The Other Side, came out. But, I know that there was some friction between her and some people at the label at that point. But again, okay, so you have this number one hit, and then, you really crossing over and making a memorable impression on the listening public with both singles sales and album sales, from what I can tell, because the album Paradise did make an appearance on Billboard's Top 200 Albums chart, not just the R&B albums chart. But this, put out with no video whatsoever. The title track, which is one of my favorite songs of hers. Hula and K Fingers did this with her. They did, I think, 6 songs on the album. I believe in the UK, this was the first single, The Vibe Is Right. In the US, the follow-up to The Other Side, which managed to get all the way up to number 34 without a video, was Rumors. Same cover as The Vibe Is Right, but this was... I think this was also a single in the UK, but no video for that either. So I really don't know, and that's interesting because that's Jive Records too. This was a couple years before the Billy Ocean titles that I was speaking of. But still, that sort of theme of really not being behind artists that are making money for the label, it seemed like. I know that there's a lot of expenses we're not privy to as the public at large, and certain budgets, that expenses that are recoupable and whatnot, but still, there was such ammunition with a lot of these songs and artists that it really seemed like a case of the record companies dropping the ball. It's a common story, but I just wanted to share those because those are artists that have had success on different scales over the years, but I think all at some point or another fell victim to that sort of corporate confusion or maze, So let me know your thoughts on them, and if there's anyone out there that might have insights on any of those specific situations, I'd be interested to hear, if anyone worked amongst either the labels or maybe promotion teams or management or whatnot, or the artists themselves, of course, because they are some of my favorite albums that I really have treasured over the years. So hope you're staying well and healthy. I know it's a long haul with the stay-at-home orders for a lot of us, but I think it's for our well-being, as hard as it is to be so isolated in so many ways. I just made my first trip to the mall today since this happened because I had to go to a lens crafters, and they're only in the malls around here, and it was like a no man's land. It was almost like being someone who was somehow invited to be the only person shopping in the mall, but everything was shuttered except like 2 or 3 stores, like mostly a couple food vendors, and the impact on the economy is really shattering, and I really hope that sooner than later we can start to make progress, but I think that health is of the utmost importance. We're walking a fine line, but I know I'm going into a separate diatribe there, but I just wanted to say that it is on my mind, and I feel very fortunate to have good health. But I want to thank everyone who is working in grocery stores and medical facilities and the places that we as everyday citizens are relying on to help us through this very difficult time. So keep the music alive, keep it in you as much as you can, listen to it, sing along, dance along. It really helps your mindset, I think. I love singing. I haven't done it professionally in a while, but anytime I get the chance to just for leisure in between the work that I'm doing, it's just such a release. It makes me feel so good, and I'm so glad to have music like this that truly stands the test of time, even though it was recorded 30 years ago or so. Okay, so thanks for your support. Thanks to all the subscribers. I don't get a chance to say it a lot because it's only recently that I've been doing kind of a lot of videos myself here now that I have more time, but I really do appreciate the positive vibes and the interest in the things that I've taken time to post, and I'm glad that a lot of folks, I think, have been exposed to music that they otherwise wouldn't have, and seen some rarities that they've enjoyed, and so I will try to keep doing that as much as possible, and I hope to talk with some of you soon. Alright, take good care, and lots of love and rhythm.